All right, let's talk about the growth mindset. It's this huge idea that swept through schools and companies everywhere. But is it this groundbreaking psychological tool we all think it is, or has the hype kind of gotten ahead of the actual science? Let's dig in.
I mean, think about it. What if the biggest thing holding you back wasn't your talent or your IQ, but just what you believe about them? That's the super powerful idea right at the heart of the growth mindset.
So this whole concept comes from a Stanford psychologist named Carol Dweck. And what she argues is that we all have this core belief about our own abilities, and that belief pretty much falls into one of two buckets. The real first step is figuring out which one is yours.
So what even is a mindset? Well, it's not about how smart you are right now. It's about what you believe is possible for you down the road. Do you see your abilities as, fixed, carved in stone, or do you see them as something you can actually build on over time?
Okay, so let's break down these two mindsets. If you've got a fixed mindset, you tend to believe your talents are just innate. You're either a math person or you're not, right? So you might actually avoid challenges because you don't want to risk looking bad. But with a growth mindset, you believe your skills can be developed through hard work and dedication. So suddenly, challenges aren't scary anymore. They're opportunities to learn and get better.
Now, it's a really inspiring idea, right? And you can see why the business world especially just grabbed onto it with both hands. I mean, the promise of unlocking all that human potential, it was just too good to pass up.
And just look at how much faith executives have in this. A huge survey found that a whopping 80% of senior execs believe a growth mindset directly fuels profits. And an even bigger number, 88%, see it as absolutely crucial for the whole organization to succeed.
And it's not just something they preach for their teams either. They really believe they practice it themselves. Get this, a staggering 96% of senior executives claim they personally have a growth mindset.
But here's where the plot thickens, because when you go and ask their employees, well, less than half of them agree that their leadership is actually walking the walk. And that is a massive gap between what people say and what they do. It's really our first clue that maybe this whole thing isn't quite as simple as it looks.
And the appeal of growth mindset goes way beyond the office. It's had a huge impact on parenting, too. For instance, there was this one fascinating study that found when parents went through a short growth mindset program, their little 10-month-old babies actually started using more communicative gestures, which, is a really key step on the road to talking.
So with this absolute explosion in popularity, the original idea started to get, a little twisted, to the point where its own creator, Carol Dweck, got worried and started warning people about what she calls a false growth mindset.
So, is it really just as easy as telling people to try harder? Turns out, not even close. Even Carol Dweck herself has been waving a red flag, saying her work is often really misunderstood and misapplied out there in the real world.
And this quote from Dweck really gets to the heart of it. The whole point was never to just pat people on the back and make them feel good by ignoring their struggles. It was meant to be a tool to actually find learning gaps and then give people the strategies and support they need to close them. And here are some of those common mistakes. First, just boiling the whole thing down to effort. Look, praising effort is kind of pointless if that effort isn't actually leading to learning. The real goal is to get people to try new strategies when they're stuck. It's also not about glossing over real learning gaps by just saying, oh, everyone is smart. And probably the most damaging mistake of all is blaming students for their struggles by just labeling them as having a fixed mindset.
Okay, so we've got the hype, and we've got the warnings from the creator herself. Now, let's get to the science. What actually happens when we test the big claim that teaching people a growth mindset actually boosts their achievement?
Well, back in 2022, a team of researchers did exactly that. They ran a massive meta-analysis, which is basically a study of studies. They pulled together all the data from 63 different experiments with almost 100,000 students to get the most reliable answer they possibly could. And this was the result, an overall effect size of 0.05. So what on earth does that mean? Well, an effect size tells you how big of an impact something has. A large effect is like flipping a switch and a bright light comes on. An effect size of 0.05, that's like flipping a switch and then squinting and not even being sure if the light got any brighter at all. It's a tiny, tiny effect.
But when you dig into the fine print, it gets even more interesting. First, even that teeny tiny effect just vanished once researchers corrected for something called publication bias. That's the tendency for studies with exciting, positive results to get published, while studies that find nothing just get filed away. And when they looked at only the absolute highest quality studies, the effect was basically zero. And here's the kicker. The review found that authors who had a financial stake in the idea, selling books or consulting gigs, reported much, much bigger effects.
Okay, wow. That scientific review sounds pretty damning. So, where does that leave us? Is the whole idea of a growth mindset just a bunch of hype?
Well, maybe the real value here isn't as some magic wand you can wave to boost test scores. Maybe it's more of a blueprint for building a real, genuine culture of learning. It's about seeing failure not as the end of the road, but as valuable feedback. It's about praising the process, the strategies, the persistence, and creating environments where people feel safe enough to take risks. And those are incredibly powerful ideas, even if you can't measure their impact on a single test.
So, what should we make of it all? Is the growth mindset a busted scientific theory? Or is it maybe just a powerful modern packaging for a timeless truth that learning is a lifelong journey, and our potential is something we have to cultivate, not just something we have to prove?